In this course, we focus primarily on the role of career public servants rather than elected officials. And for the purposes of our discussion, a public servant is a government official or employee. The career public servant or public administrator plays a critical role in the delivery of public service. There are 4 primary reasons to differentiate career public employees from elected officials. Let's take a look. Public servants, otherwise known as civil servants, are subordinates in our governing systems, and confusion often abounds concerning their relative position in the hierarchy. In an organization of divided and checked powers, public servants have many bosses. This places career officials at the center of politics and policymaking, and holds them responsible for translating an often conflicting mix of policy intentions into agency actions at all levels. They share in a big way with their political superiors the task of creating public value and building legitimacy for government policy and action. Career tenure gives public administrators some advantages over their elected counterparts, who often do not or cannot make public service a lifetime calling. This tendency in turn bolsters the power of career public officials in determining how our systems of democratic governance work. Career public officials help design, organize, implement, and maintain our public programs. In the process, they contribute to and may also detract from the engagement of citizens in democratic life. The influence of public employees in shaping democratic government is significant at local levels of government, which are frequently governed by elected bodies of part-time officials who have no staff. Third, career public officials greatly outnumber elected officials and their political appointees. In all of the United States, there are only several thousand elected and appointed officials, compared with several million career officials. Finally, career administrators play a pivotal role in creating and maintaining an appropriate balance among private and public sectors within communities. In doing so, it's incumbent upon public officials to understand the rationale underlying each sector and how the work in these sectors can be harnessed to serve the greater good of the community. All in all, public servants play a critical role in the equitable delivery of public services to our communities. To begin, a democratic republic is a country that's both a republic and a democracy. Common definitions of the terms of democracy and republic often overlap, suggesting that many democracies function as republics and many republics operate on democratic principles. A republic is a state in which supreme power is held by the people and their elected representatives, where a democracy is a system of government by the whole population or all the eligible members of a state, typically through elected representatives. Public service is a politically neutral and responsive field of administration, which involves questions of how to get things done, while politicians determine what things need to be done in the first place. The founders shared a healthy respect for the diverse opinions about democracy in general and the elements most crucial to securing liberty in particular. Toward that end, they stressed a common belief in the need for balancing contending principles and interests. Public administration treats the governing principles embraced by the founding fathers as meaningful, obligating, and enduring, but also ambiguous, unsettled, and conflicting. The Constitution they designed embodies these principles and their inherent tensions, and public service must inevitably reflect the resulting controversies. Public service is thus mired in politics at all levels. For career public servants, we have restrained partisan influence in favor of preserving independent professional judgment and technical expertise. Politics is channeled through legal, organizational, and institutional processes that tend to slow down decision-making and provide a forum for varying degrees of public input and scrutiny. Public input, deliberation, and accountability are high principles of democratic governance, but they are also the source of delay, red tape, and occasional gridlock. This results in an aggravating trade-off with efficiency and effectiveness. We commonly hear politicians claiming that they want government to run more like a business. But of course, they cannot abandon deliberation, accountability, and a concern for fairness. As a consequence, frustration ensues. They run straight into a central dilemma faced by the founders: how to confer enough power to govern effectively without it becoming excessive. The ultimate purpose of a public servant is to sustain a democratic republic dedicated to the principle of ordered liberty. Let's define ordered liberty in public administration as the balance of public good and individual rights. Though democracy is vital to our culture and models of governance, it remains problematic in a reality dedicated to protecting individual rights. The founders shared a common concern for both individual rights and the common good. Accordingly, we've subjected both the influence of individuals and the government to a system of elections and appointments that have become progressively removed from direct electoral accountability, yet retain representativeness. Over time, we've modified our national and state constitutions to increase direct democratic rule and accountability, and increased our expectations that political leaders should avidly embrace majority will rather than temper and resist its influence. Ordered liberty is an end fraught with conundrums and tensions. It's helpful to consider the nature of the relationship between order and liberty. Americans are passionately committed to individual liberty, yet divided on how to best achieve it. Should we minimize the role of government in order to maximize freedom, or should we increase the power of our governments in order to protect and enhance our liberties within various spheres of life? The implications for public administration change significantly the more we favor one approach versus the other. In the 21st century, these two approaches inform the basic ideological differences between our two major political parties, and implicit in each is a differing sense of how we should live our lives together. The Declaration of Independence asserts that all men are created equal, and they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The Declaration has served as a standard by which we measure our democratic success. So the principle of equality has remained a core national value to which administrators hold a responsibility. There are three dimensions of equality that have implication for career public administrators. First, equality is often thought of as equality of social condition, or a measure of income disparity and all of the consequences that follow from being poor. A second way these equality issues arise for public administrators is through their leadership role in addressing disparity and equity of opportunity. Administrators have enhanced responsibilities advocating for equality and social justice. A third way in which equality issues arise for administrators is through their leadership role in embracing and promoting various kinds of social, racial, gender, ethnic, and religious diversity in their communities. All in all, career administrators play a vital role in shaping both the processes and substance of public service and implementing the rule of law. The rule of law refers to a principle of governance in which all persons, institutions, and entities, both public and private, are accountable to the laws that are known, equally enforced, and independently adjudicated. The rule of law is the principle that law should govern as opposed to being governed by decisions of individual government officials. It primarily refers to the influence and authority of law within society, particularly as a constraint upon behavior, including behavior of government officials. Our rights are enshrined in law, and we bind all who engage in public decisions and actions to establish legal procedures to help preserve those rights. The law provides the defining element of public administration. It establishes a minimum standard of reasonability to which all administrative decisions are subject. Public servants must give reasons for their decisions, and these reasons are subject to scrutiny on both substantive and procedural grounds. Law is therefore integral in public decision-making and the administrative process. The powers granted to all public officials and the ends prescribed to them are defined by law. The legal foundation for public administration in the United States means that legal knowledge and analysis cannot be left exclusively to lawyers. Public servants of all stripes must cultivate an understanding of the Constitution and laws that guide their work. They must use law and comply with it. Those officials who do not give the rule of law due regard endanger the public trust. The law is used to formally establish public institutions and to codify the relationships, processes, and practices that comprise them. By codify, we mean more than merely writing these things into rulebooks or standard operating procedures. The administrative processes and practices developed in public institutions are used by public servants to relate an often ambiguous content of the law to daily life in meaningful ways. As a starting point, it's helpful to review the basic types and functions of the law that are relevant to administrative practice. Public servants encounter 4 basic types of the law: constitutional, statutory, administrative, and common. Let's take a look. The Constitution is not simply another legal document. It expresses our common ideals and obligates all public servants who operate under its auspices. Constitutional laws refer to the rights carved out by federal and state constitutions. The majority of this body of law has developed from state and federal Supreme Court rulings, which interpret their representative constitutions and ensure the laws passed by the legislatures do not violate constitutional limits. Statutes are laws passed by Congress and state legislatures. Statutory law is a term used to define written laws usually enacted by a legislative body. Statutory laws vary from regulatory and administrative laws that are passed by executive agencies and common law or law created by prior court decisions. Administrative law is a body of law created by government agencies concerned with procedures, rules, and regulations. Agencies make rules and they issue orders to enforce an effect of the law. Agencies create regulations that impose standards, set rates, and issue orders and licenses covering a variety of professional, social, and economic activities. Common law is established in the judicial courts of our country. Judges resolve civil cases brought by complainants concerning a myriad of disputes. This accumulation of standards and legal precedents is also known formally as case law. Public officials need to see how the legal dimensions of their work can be used to build trust and legitimacy in democratic institutions. The law is used to formally establish and to recognize public institutions and to codify the relationships, processes, and practices that comprise them. The law serves 6 important functions in public service. Let's take a look. Beyond command, the law establishes institutions and both confers and limits power, maintains boundaries among the sectors, partitions sovereignty, provides purposes, goals, and standards for appropriate action, educates and persuades, and authorizes the collection of taxes and the expenditure of funds. The law creates and limits organizations and institutions. We use the law to give legal status to a complex array of organizational entities, from the basic government agency to local governments, to special districts and authorities, corporations, and enterprises. The legal system also prescribes widely varying governing structures such as boards and commissions, centralized hierarchies, adversarial and dispute resolution structures, and so on. The law creates and maintains boundaries among the sectors. The body of law governing the relationship among the sectors has undergone review, debate, and changes over time, producing more clearly separated boundaries around nonprofit organizations like religious and non-religious, government, and for-profit private sector organizations. The law also partitions sovereignty, one of the most important functions that it has. Federalism ensures that states have the independent authority to maintain the public health and safety of their communities. States determine how they will organize and distribute this responsibility among various subunits like counties, cities, townships, regional governments, and so on, and what kinds of powers they can exercise. The law is used to promote values and establish standards for appropriate action. The more significant laws often include statements of goals and values that contain lofty language intended to inspire and obligate citizens and officials alike. They express hopes and aspirations towards which public servants should strive, yet may never fully attain. While most people associate the law with power and coercion, many legal requirements are intended to teach. The law prescribes standards or expectations of proper behavior in a variety of settings. The law is often subject to an argument over meaning, intent, and outcome, and judges are not the only officials charged with educating the public about these arguments. Most public servants find themselves educating people about what the law says, how it's applied, and why it should or should not apply to them. Finally, the law authorizes revenue collection and expenditures. Throughout America's history, the power to collect and spend public tax dollars has been regarded as a dangerous one, a power that needs to be guarded by clear legal parameters. As a result, the government cannot collect taxes or spend revenue without affirmative legal authority. The financial and budgetary systems of our governments are subject to legal procedures and authorizations over extracting and then spending taxpayers' money. Understanding these functions of the law help public administrators realize success in providing the best possible service through their organizations.